Hey everyone! So all week I've been posting reviews of cloth pads that I have used and the different sellers that I have purchased from. Well, today I'm going to teach you how to make your own. It's a costly investment sometimes to start your cloth pad stash, and you may not be sure whether or not you want to do it. So I'm going to teach you how to make some pads with things that you have laying around your house. So if you want to learn how to make awesome cloth pads like this Wonder Woman one I just made, then stay tuned and I'll show you how to do it right now. Okay, so to make this pad, what you're going to need is some fabric. I'm using 100% cotton, but you can also use flannel. If you have a pair of flannel pajamas laying around that you no longer wear, you can use that. You're going to need some fleece, again off a pair of sweatpants or old jammies that you no longer use. And then for my core, I am just using 2 layers, 2 pieces of an old towel. Literally just terry from an old towel. So I made my own patterns, and I'm going to show you how to make those yourself at home. Okay, so you're just going to take a regular piece of notebook paper. You're going to fold it in half. And then you're going to fold it in half again. Okay, and then with it facing you, you want the folded crease facing you, and then the crease where it's fully closed over on that side. So I'm sitting over here, so that's why it's facing me this way. Okay, so you just want to draw the outline of your pad. I like the wings to be the full length of the paper, so I'm going to start with my wing. Let me see. Let me try to do it this way. So I'm just going to do a triangle wing. So I'm going to make my wing go all the way out. And then for the pad, I want it rounded at the top and then coming down to the wing. Okay, so let me go ahead and cut that out, and then we'll take a look and see if that's the shape that I really want. Thought those wings were a little extreme, so I just cut past it a little bit. And now I'm going to open it up. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So to make the pattern for the liner, for the inner lining, what I'm going to do is take another piece of paper, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fold it in half, fold it in half again. And then I'm going to put this on the same way. So the big crease is here, and the initial crease we made is here. So I'm going to line this up, and I'm just going to trace out where I have the body of the pad. I'm just going to kind of freehand that down the rest of the way. Okay, and then what I'm going to want to do is come in closer around the edge. That way it's a little bit smaller and we have some give around the outside when we are stitching the 2 pieces together, when we're stitching the cotton and the fleece together. So I'm going to take it in some, about a 1/2 inch all the way around. Okay, and then I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to see if it's going to fit in my pad pattern that I made, and yeah, it looks like that'll fit nicely in there. So as you can see, it gives me a nice space all the way around. So there you go. That's how you can make your patterns to make a pad and the inner lining. So now let me get my sewing machine and we'll go ahead and start sewing. Okay, the sewing machine I use is a Brother, It is a CE 1100 Project Runway, and it has 100 different stitches, and I'm only going to be working with the 0 stitch today, the 0 stitch. So just straight stitches all the way around everything I'm doing. It's very basic, and if you don't have a sewing machine, you can do it by hand. It's not a problem. It'll take you a little bit longer, but it's still the same concept. It's just a straight stitch, and then you're going to turn and top stitch. So you sew them with them facing together, and then you flip them over and you sew it with them facing the correct way. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I have my 2 pieces of terry here, and I have them just pinned together up the center. That way they're not sliding around while I'm sewing. Okay, so I'm going to start with a back stitch. Okay. I'm just going to straight stitch this all the way around. When I come back to the end, I'm just going to do a couple more back stitches. Okay. Okay. Now I'm just removing the pins, and there you go. There's my absorbent liner. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach the absorbency to our top fabric. So I'm going to position this so that I have enough room to sew around it. Okay. I'm going to pin it in place. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to sew this all the way around. Again, I'm going to start with a few back stitches. To get around that corner nicely, you may have to do a couple stitches, lift your foot, and move the fabric around. That way you get a nice curve on that stitch. And then I'm going to do a couple back stitches to make sure that stays in place. Okay. Okay, so there you go. Nice clean stitch all the way around. So like any other fabric, fleece has a good side and a bad side. This is the softer side on my fleece, so I'm going to put that against the good side of my cotton fabric, and we're going to sew all the way around and leave a little hole where we can turn it out. Okay, a trick when you're turning something out to top stitch it when it has a point is to cut that point off as close as you can to the stitch. That way there's not fabric bunching up right in your way. Okay, and then I'm going to turn that out the right way. Okay, so once you have it turned out, you can pin it again if you'd like. I don't, because pretty much it's together and I'm just sewing a stitch around it to keep it in place and to finish it off. What you are going to do here is you're going to curl these ends under. And you're going to sew that hole shut right there. And then you're just going to continue to make a stitch all the way around. And then I'm going to do another couple of back stitches to finish it off. Okay. Okay, so there you are. Now all you need is closures. I use snaps on mine because I just happen to have snaps and snap pliers. But if you don't have that, you can pick up some hook and loop, which is also Velcro. I got this at Walmart for $1, and it's 1 yard of 3 1/4 inch. So you can just cut yourself a piece of that. I would say something along those lines would be good. And then you could either sew this on, or you could use like a fabric glue and glue it on. And you glue one to one side, the top part of your pad, and then the other one to the underside. I would say if you're using hook and loop, use the hook part on the top, because if you use it on the bottom, then it can keep sticking to itself and it might pill. So I would use the scratchy part, the loop part on the top, and use the softer side on the bottom and just glue those into place. And then it would just wrap around your panties and hold like that. Or I'll show you how I use snaps in a snap plier. Okay, so this is how snaps come if you just order them commercially. I got something like 100, maybe more than that. Both sides have the pokey part. So I'm going to need 2 of these. They are like flat buttons on one side and they are pointy on the other side. That's what you're going to use the snap pliers to push that down and secure the other 2 pieces. So I'll need 2 of those. And then 1 of each of the other 2 connector pieces. So there's the one piece. There's one piece. And there's the other piece. And again, like I said before, we're going to do one facing one way and one facing the other way. So what I do is I just line this up and figure out where it's going to sit in here nicely and not hang over the edges at all. And then because it's pointy, I just push through. Some people will use an awl and poke a hole. I don't feel the need to do that. I've never had issues just poking it through, but maybe if it's a thicker fabric, you would have issues. But I just poked through fleece and cotton, and it came through just fine. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to put this piece in here. So I've got the pointy poking through. I'm just going to lay this over top. And then you get the snap pliers and you put the flat part in the little black thing here. Okay. And then you push down as hard as you can. And then as you can see, it just flattens that in there. Okay. And then on the other side, we're going to do the opposite. So find a place where I'm comfortable with that going in there. And then I just push it through. Okay. And then I'll put the other side right in there. And then again, put the flat part in the black disc. And push down as hard as you can. And then it just pushes that piece right in there. So now when you put this on your panties, you would put this side under, this side over, and you just snap it into place. And there you go. And like I said, it would work just fine with Velcro as well if that's what you have laying around the house. Do not go out and specially purchase something for, you know, just trying it out. But if you decide to make these as a business or something to sell or something that you want to make yourself a whole stash, feel free to make anything, you know, nice and fancy in here when you are connecting the absorbent material to your top. When it comes to doing the back, the fewer holes you have in this, the better, because this is going to be your water resistant, your liquid resistant lining. So you don't want a ton of holes going through this because it gives places for any of that blood to leak out. So just around the rim is the only place that I have done any kind of attachments to the fleece. Around the front, you can do whatever you want. So if you want it super decorative, if you want to sew channels up the middle so you have even more places for things to go, to direct things where to go for it. But just to try a couple out, I think this is a great way to see if that is something you will like without making a huge investment. Use things that are around your house. Use some cotton you have, cut up a pair of old sweatpants, or, you know, if you're a mom, you know, you have those pants that your kids have grown out of. Use those and, you know, put some towel in the middle. If you cloth diaper and your kids are done being cloth diapered, use some of the liners from their diapers, some of the inserts, and have some fun with it. Get some fun fabrics. And play around with it. Don't get discouraged if your first one doesn't work. The one I was happiest with was the fourth one that I did. The other ones were too small. The wings were not long enough. I didn't think about the liner needing to be a bit smaller. So really, just work with it, have some fun with it, and give it a shot. I encourage you to give it a shot. And in the comments below, let me know if you liked them. Let me know if you ran into any problems or if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer any of those questions. And if you have any tips to make this easier, share and let us all know. And I would love to hear what you guys think. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.